Today on Appalachian Aviator, we're going to talk about one of the most important concepts in aviation. That's how to land an airplane. My name's Devin, and I'll be your flight instructor for this lesson. And I want to remind you that while takeoffs are optional, landings are required. So let's go ahead and get into it. I've broken down the secret to a perfect landing in 4 easy steps here. We're going to fly the airplane all the way to our aiming point. We're going to round out just above the runway, keep looking all the way down the runway, and we're not going to climb or descend. We're going to talk about each of those steps individually, but for now, let's contact the tower and get our clearance to take off.
Good morning, Asheville Tower, Sirius 311, Foxtrot Sierra, holding short, runway 35, ready for takeoff.
115 Sierra Tower, wind is 3503, runway 35, clear for takeoff, make left traffic.
Clear for takeoff, 35, left traffic, 1 Foxtrot Sierra.
Now that we've got our clearance, we can go ahead and roll out onto the runway. We're looking for those big numbers painted on the runway. That's 35 that we got cleared to take off on. Not only does that tell us we are where we think we are, that's going to be our aiming point later on in the video. I've had a lot of students and a lot of instructors say that the aiming point is going to be the 1,000 footers. Some say it's the end of the runway. I like to pick the numbers there, runway 35. That tends to work out the best for me, but you can pick whatever aiming point you'd like. I believe that if we pick 35 as the aiming point, our touchdown point is going to be the 1,000 footers. That's going to make your landings to commercial standards every time. Now, today we're flying in a Cirrus SR-22T, but these concepts can be applied to any Piper, Cessna, Beechcraft, anything you're out here flying.
Here we are, 3,000 feet. For 137 knots across the ground at 75% power. So this isn't exactly something that you're going to want to come out and just beat up the pattern with. It's always good to hone a little bit of that stick and rudder skill. I always want to start that descent. See, a lot of students have trouble holding that altitude on the downwind. Once we pass that touchdown point, we need to start down.
Now that we've turned base, let's go ahead and review what we're trying to accomplish with this landing technique. I want to bring the nose of the airplane as close as I can to that aiming point for as long as I can. I see a lot of people start rounding out way too early, and what that does is cause us to fall right through ground effect and bounce into the runway.
Now, it looks like we've got 2 red, 2 white. That PAPI system's working. It's helping tell us that we are on glide.
The other secret is to get our approach speed exactly right. We're going to find that information in the POH. So in this case, I'm landing with 50% flaps. That's going to be 85 knots on my final approach. When I fly the airplane all the way to the aiming point, I don't want to round out too early. I want to fly as close as I can to my aiming point before I round out. That's maybe 3 to 5 feet. You can get even closer once you build that sight picture, but that's going to come with practice. We're going to try to hold the airplane just above the runway and slowly remove power. Without power, all the airplane can do is land. We don't want to climb out of ground effect, but we want to keep enough back pressure continuously in. The flare takes care of itself if you try to keep the airplane from landing without power. I'm going to try to repeat the same thing on this landing. Once I get just above my aiming point, then I'm going to start the round out. That keeps me from rounding out too high and not actually entering ground effect. I like to slowly remove power right about the time I cross the runway threshold. That's about the time I start doing my round out, and if my goal is to fly the airplane all the way down the runway without climbing or descending, I'm going to be guaranteed a smooth landing. Coincidentally, if my approach speed is correct and I don't round out too high, I'm most likely going to hit the 1,000 footers, which is to commercial standards.
Up that crosswind.
You can 1841 Asheville Tower, fly runway heading runway 35, clear for takeoff. Fly runway heading, clear for takeoff, runway 35, Legion 1841.
Most people ask, when should I start the flare? Well, if you're thinking about the flare, you're probably going to add too much back pressure too soon and climb out of ground effect. That's going to end up in a hard landing. If my airspeed is too high when I cross the threshold, I'm going to float a lot longer. If my airspeed's too low, I'm going to land a lot sooner. It's as simple as that. We want to look all the way down the runway when we're landing because that's like trying to drive a car directly over the hood. We need to use our peripheral clues to see if the ground is coming up to meet us and just how fast it is. Not climbing or descending means we're going to hold it parallel just like we were going to fly it all the way down the runway, but without power, eventually all the airplane can do is land. This landing is a good example of not holding it off the runway long enough. When the ground came up to meet me, I didn't apply enough back pressure, and that caused me to land a little short.
November 1 Fox, that's right out forward, taxi out for the ramp on this frequency after that.
Right, 4 and over to the ramp with you. Thanks for the help. 1 Fox here.
Hopefully this helps make each landing consistently smooth. Leave a comment below if I can clear up something for you. Always glad to answer questions. I'm Devin with Appalachian Aviator. You guys fly safe.